Start today's class on your heels. Activate Ujjayi breathing by slightly constricting the back of your throat and breathing in and out of your nostrils. You want to increase the length of your inhales and your exhales and make them take about the same amount of time. Close your eyes. The theme of today's class is Revolved Poses. So we'll be doing lots of twists. And we also have requests to do crow and a headstand. So we will be learning those poses as well. Go ahead and set an intention for today's class. We'll also do an exercise in gratitude. So we're going to come up with 4 things that we're grateful for today. For the first thing, what is something that happened yesterday that you're grateful for? For the second thing, what is an opportunity you have today that you're grateful for? So what can you do today, and what makes you grateful for being able to do that? For the third item, what is something small or insignificant near you right now, or something small that happened earlier today that you're grateful for? Maybe it was your morning cup of water or tea or coffee. Something like that. And finally, for number 4, who is someone in the past who has helped you? Go ahead and think of that person, or maybe it's a group of people or a couple of people, and just send them some gratitude. Maybe mentally right now, and if you want to reach out to them after class and just let them know that you're thankful, that might be a nice thing to do. Continue to breathe. Now flutter your eyes open and slowly rise up to a tabletop position. And take some movement to stretch and awaken the body. Maybe make circles with the heels. Sometimes the heels are very tight, so sitting on them at the start of class is more of a challenge. Now come to bird dog pose. So raise your right arm forward and your left leg back behind you and hold here, making sure that you're active in the core and that it's like someone is pulling your arm away from your body and pulling your leg back behind you. Bring it down and now raise your left arm and your right leg. Hold here. Lower down. And now inhale up the other side. And as you exhale, lower down. And then when you inhale, you raise up the other side. And keep taking this movement to the breath at your own pace. Now come to stillness, and then raise your left arm up, twisting open to the left, and then needle thread it through, resting on your shoulder. So you want to be putting some weight onto your left shoulder so that you feel a stretch or like a massage. Use your right hand to lift back up. Now inhale your right arm up and needle thread it through, coming into the pose on the other side. Come back up, tabletop position, and come to puppy pose. So there's a 90-degree angle bend at your knees. Your hips are up in the air directly over the knees. And your arms come forward and your forehead down. So you're in child's pose from the waist up. From here, we're going to transition into dolphin pose. So lower down onto your forearms, lift your hips up into the air, and walk your toes forward towards the front of your body. Make sure you're not collapsing your shoulders here. And if you'd like, you can take steps, kicking your legs back behind you, or just stay in classic dolphin pose. Slowly lower your knees down to the mat, come up on hands and knees, kick your feet back, plank pose. Shoulders are directly over the wrists. Make a straight line from your shoulders to your heels so your hips aren't too high up or too low. And twist your tailbone back and down behind you. Now lower down onto your stomach. Bring your forearms down and lift up into Sphinx pose. So again, we're not collapsing into the shoulders, we're pushing up and out, shoulders away from the ears, gazes forward. Lower back down onto your stomach. Tuck your toes and push up into an upward facing dog. And now look over your left shoulder and back behind you. Twisting. Come back forward and then take it to the right. Now come back forward. Breathe over the toes into downward facing dog. Go ahead and pedal out your dog, taking whatever movements feel good here in this first downward dog of the class. You want your hips up. Most of the weight that's in your hands is in your thumb and first fingers. So really push in at the center of the knuckle of that first finger. Really push that down into the mat. On an inhale, your right leg lifts back behind you. Bring your heel to your seat and then open your hip. Make sure your shoulders aren't getting out of line, so keep your shoulders parallel. So you might want to put a little more weight into your right hand and make circles with your heel. Now go the other way with those circles and then bring your knee to your nose, curling your upper back. Now bring that foot back behind you, up. Now bring your right knee past your right elbow. Bring it back behind you and up. And now kick it through to your hands and pop up into a crescent lunge. Bring your hands to prayer and then twist to the right. So your left elbow goes past your front knee and your gaze is over your right shoulder up to the sky. Come back to crescent lunge and then lower your hands down to the mat. Kick it back to downward facing dog. Exhale your feet to your hands. You can step or hop. And then inhale to a halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, arms sweep up with a flat back overhead, gazes past your fingertips to the sky. Exhale, bring your hands to prayer at heart center. Inhale your arms back up, and then swan dive forward with a flat back to forward fold. Inhaling, halfway lift. Exhaling, you plant the hands and kick back or step back to plank and chaturanga down. Inhale to your back bend. We are doing up dog. And then exhale over your toes to downward facing dog. On an inhale, the left leg rises up behind you. Bring your heel to your seat. Open up the hip on the other side, making circles with your heel. Go the other direction with your circles. Then slowly bring your hips back in line. Your leg is still kicked back behind you. Now bring your knee to your nose. Again, curling and curving at the upper back. Kick that foot back behind you and up. Now bring your left knee past your left elbow. Kick it back behind you and up. And now kick it through to meet your hands, popping up into a crescent lunge. Bring your hands to prayer at heart center, and then twist to the left. Right elbow past your front knee, gaze up, behind you, past the shoulder, up to the sky. Come back to crescent lunge, forward, and now lower your arms down to the mat and kick it back to downward dog. Exhale, feet to hands, halfway lift, forward fold, arms up overhead, prayer at heart center. Arms up overhead, forward fold, down, come up halfway, plant the hands, plank, chaturanga down, up dog or your back bend of choice, and roll over the toes to downward facing dog. Inhale, right leg up behind you. Exhale, kick it through to the hands. Come up to a standing pose, and you want to face both feet towards the wide edge of your mat. And now bend at the hips, lowering down with a flat back. Bring your right hand down to the ground or a block, and your left hand twists open to the sky. Your gaze is past your left fingertips up. Bring your left hand down to the ground, and now your right arm up to the sky, twisting. Bring your right arm down to the ground. Now bring both hands to your hips and activate your core, and with a flat back, slowly raise back up. Point the toes that are closest to the front of the mat towards the front of the mat, and then step up with your back foot meeting your front. Hands at prayer, mountain pose. Heel toe your feet together, toes touch, sink your hips back, chair pose. Bring your hands to prayer and then lower down into a forward fold. Halfway lift. Plank, chaturanga down. Inhaling up to your back bend. Then exhaling to downward facing dog. Slowly walk your feet towards your hands, bringing them to the wide edges of the mat, Lower your hips down, coming into a yogic squat. You can rock your weight onto the left foot and then the right foot and use your arms or your elbows against your thighs to open up your hips a little more. Bring your hands down to the mat, raise your hips up, and squeeze your legs into your arms, crow pose. From crow pose, shoot back, lower down, chaturanga. Inhale to your back bend, and then exhale over the toes to downward facing dog. From down dog, transition onto your seats. Sit up, have your left leg extended out straight, toes are flexed. Bring your right leg over your left, and then bring your left heel towards your seat. If both sit bones are still making contact, you can continue on in the pose. If not, just bring your left leg back out straight in front of you. Inhale, your right arm back. On an inhale, your left arm comes up, and you exhale, twist to the right. So as you inhale, your spine gets straighter and taller, and as you exhale, you twist more to the right. Come back to center, counter twist to the left, then come back to center and switch legs. So your right leg extends out in front of you, right toes are flexed. Your left leg comes over your right leg. You bring your right heel to your seat. If both sit bones make contact, you can continue, otherwise bring your right leg back. Left arm comes behind you, inhale your right arm up, and then twist to the left. Come back to center. Counter twist to the right. I believe we're going to set up for headstand. So I will teach you the proper, safe setup for headstand. If you have a cushion, you can lay it down. You want to grab your elbows so that you have the right distance of your elbow placement. Then release your elbows and interlace your fingers together. Now you want to untuck your pinkies and just kind of have one pinky over the other. That way they're not like interlaced underneath you. They're just kind of resting on top of one another. You want to bring the top of your head down onto the mat, and so you're kind of cupping the back of your head in your hands. Now you want to make sure that you are pushing out against your shoulders. So you want to have your shoulders away from the ears. Then come to dolphin pose and walk your toes forward so that your hips are directly over your head. And you want to use your core to lift up into the headstand. You don't want to ever jump up into a headstand. You want to use your core strength. So if you try and you don't have that core strength, just work on balance, but don't actually try getting into a headstand. You can always practice this headstand pose against a pole or a wall or a door, as long as you're confident someone will not open it. And we are just taking some time in today's class to make sure the students can get safely into the headstand. So keep practicing. And I will let you know when we are ready for the next pose. If you are in headstand and you have been practicing, you might want to slowly and safely come out and come into a restful and recovering pose, perhaps child's pose, or even a mini shavasana or corpse pose on your back. To counteract some of the shoulder work in that headstand, we're going to come to a standing pose, eagle. So spill the weight into your left leg. Your right leg wraps around the left. You can bend the left knee. Arms come out to a T, and the left arm goes over the right. Palms meet. Then raise your elbows up to the same height as your shoulders and move your palms away from the face so that it makes a 90-degree angle. You should feel a release and a stretch in the back of the shoulder blades. So you can play around with your elbow positioning and your palms positioning until you feel that nice stretch. Come out of the pose, shake it out before we go into the other side. So the weight, I'm just teaching someone how to get the proper foot placement. So now we're going to transition onto the other side. So weight spills into your right leg, left wraps over right, arms come to a T, right arm over left arm. Feel that stretch in eagle pose, releasing the shoulders. Burst out of the pose. Come to standing at the top of your mat. Inhale your arms up overhead, gaze past your fingertips to the sky. Exhale, forward fold with a flat back. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plank, chaturanga down. Inhale to your back bend. And exhale over the toes, downward facing dog. We're going to slowly walk our feet to our hands, bringing them to the wide edge of the mat, yogic squat. Then place your hands on the mat and come to crow pose. That's right, 2 crow poses in one class. We have a few folks today who were not able to do crow, so we are taking some time to teach them. So you can practice your crow as well. Some helpful tips: make sure your elbows are bent slightly, preferably at a 90-degree angle, but I find just slightly bending them to help get you into the pose. You want to raise your hips up and then squeeze your legs into your arms and then come up onto 2 toes and then slowly lift 1 toe up, and then you'll get the balance right and you can lift that other toe up coming into crow pose. Even if it's just for a second, it counts. From where you are, come to a halfway lift, lower down, forward fold. Inhale, arms up overhead, prayer. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold down, and then stay in a forward fold. Lift your right leg up behind you and bring your left arm twisting up and open, revolved half moon. Come back down and hang in a ragdoll position. So grab your opposite elbows or opposite biceps. Shift your weight into the left and right foot, feeling a release in the lower back. Drop your arms down and slowly stack vertebrae on top of vertebrae coming up. Stand in mountain pose, palms facing forward. Then inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, forward fold down. And prepare to come into revolved half moon on the other side. So left leg comes back behind you. And now right arm twists open to the sky, gazes past your fingertips up. Slowly lower that right arm back down to the mat. And now hang in ragdoll. Knees can be bent as much as you need here. Let your hands fall to the mat and then slowly come up, stacking vertebrae on top of vertebrae. Palms forward, mountain pose. Inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale to plank and chaturanga, down, resting on your stomach. Rest however is comfortable for you on your stomach. Maybe it's on your chin, or you're resting your forehead on your forearm, or on just one cheek. Switch cheeks. Now gaze down at the mat. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders, tuck your toes, and lift up into a plank position. You can then lower the knees, swing your heels to the side, coming to rest on your seats. Extend your left leg out in front. Bring the bottom of your right foot to the left inner thigh. We're going to do a one-legged hamstring stretch. You can either bring both hands towards your toes with a flat back, or you can have one arm up overhead as you twist and stretch the side. So that is your right arm that is up overhead, twisting that side body. Try to bring that hand to the toes. Now switch legs. So bring your right leg out in front of you, flexing your right toes. The bottom of your left foot comes to the inner thigh. And you can either have both arms forward or just your right arm forward and your left arm is up, stretching open the left side body now. Come back up. Lower down onto your back. We're going to set up for bridge pose, so your feet are hips width distance apart. You can brush your heels with your fingertips. They are that close to your seat. Then on an inhale, raise your hips up. Bring your shoulders together underneath you. Interlace your hands into a fist. And breathe. Activate the glutes and the front of the thighs, the quads, just to get a little more height out of those hips. Slowly lower down onto the mat and keep your feet where they are and windshield wipe your knees left and right. From here, set up for either another bridge pose, or if wheel is in your practice, raise up into wheel. Slowly and safely lower down. Bring your knees to your chest and try to grab opposite elbows as you squeeze your knees into the chest and rock left and right. Bring your arms to a T. Raise your legs up into the air. Flex your feet. Bring your both legs to the left and your gaze to the right. Make sure both shoulders can touch the mat or the ground. Bring both legs up to center and then carry it over to the right. Your gaze is now to the left past your fingertips. Bring your legs back to center. Then bring your left leg down to the mat and your right knee up to your chest and give it a squeeze. With your left arm, grab your right knee and bring it to the left. Your right arm is a T and your gaze past your right fingertips. Supine twist. Come back to center and switch legs. So right leg comes down, left knee to chest, give it a squeeze. Your right hand guides that left knee over to the right and your gaze is to the left. Come back to center. Bring both knees to the chest. Magnetize your knees together and now bring both knees to the left, gaze to the right. Inhale back to center and exhale the knees to the other side. Your gaze goes to the opposite side of your legs. And keep taking these movements to the breath. So as you inhale, your knees come back to center and your gaze goes the opposite way. And as you exhale, your knees drop to the other side. Just a few breaths. This movement is great for the middle back, the oft neglected middle back. We don't really take this movement too often in everyday life, so it's good to strengthen it. Next time your knees come to the center, just give them a gentle squeeze and rock left and right, and take one final pose before we set up for the final resting pose. I'm doing a happy baby, but you can do any pose that your body is calling to you. When ready, lower your legs down, let them fall open to the sides. Your arms are at your sides with palms facing up, your neck is flat. You are in Shavasana, final resting pose. Relax every muscle in your body like a wave from the ocean. First hitting your feet, crawling up to your calves, thighs, glutes, front hips, core, chest, back, shoulders, biceps and arms and hands and fingers, up through your neck, your face, your eyebrows. Relax every muscle in your body. My destination is no longer a place, rather a new way of seeing. Marcel Proust. Slowly introduce physical movement back into your bodies. Bring your hands over your head, stretching from fingertips to toes. Bring your knees into your chest, rocking gently left and right. Roll over onto your right side in fetal position, resting your right cheek on your bicep. With your left hand, push up into a comfortable seated position at the top of your mat. Your hands can be palm down or up on your knees or prayer at heart center. Spine is straight and tall, neck is flat, chin slightly tucked. One more exercise in gratitude. Give yourself gratitude for coming to yoga today and being kind to your mind and your body. The light in me shines in the light in you. Namaste.